So welcome and thank you for being here today for our first meeting. We have been tasked with a very important and exciting journey ahead of us as we work together to evaluate how funding is allocated in our community, and more importantly, to provide recommendations to ensure the continued support of essential community services such as the human services, cultural, arts, travel, and tourism sectors. As Columbus continues to grow and evolve, it is essential that our funding strategies keep pace with the changing needs of our community, particularly in a post-COVID environment. I look forward to working with each of you to develop those recommendations and to keep in mind we're here to serve our community as a whole. So I'm going to ask for a moment for some brief introductions. If you would just share your name, the organization that you are with, and maybe most importantly, what inspired you to join this committee today. I will start here at the end.
Is this on? Yeah. My name is Melissa Green. I'm a member of Columbus City Council, and I am here because I deeply care about our community and want to see it continue moving forward. Thank you.
Jamie Shoemaker. I'm the Executive Director of the Central Ohio Labor Council, and I would love to be a part of moving Columbus forward.
Craig Conley, Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Ginther's Office for Community Impact, and I'm excited about beginning with the end in mind and being able to forecast our future.
Good afternoon, Janika Pierce-Tucker. I am with Taft Law, and I am here just because I am committed to the growth of Columbus and to working with all of you.
Good afternoon. My name is Darnita Bradley. I'm with Jobs Ohio, and first and foremost, I am here because I was asked, and I believe that when you're asked to do, to serve your community, that is what you do, but it is a privilege and an honor to be part of recommendations for solutions that we continue to make sure that our communities are vibrant and healthy. So it's a privilege and an honor to be here today. Thank you.
My name is Michael Young. I'm lead pastor of City of Grace Church in Columbus, Ohio. And unlike Sister Bradley, I wasn't asked. I was told I was supposed to be on this. So I'm a product of Columbus, a product of Columbus City Schools. I pastor a thriving congregation where most of my constituents are from Columbus, so the peace and prosperity of this city is incredibly important to me.
And Matt Scantland, I'm the CEO at And Health, lifelong, born and raised in Central Ohio. I care a lot about our community, and I know there are so many worthy and important things that we can do to support people, so I'm excited to work with the committee to make good decisions about that.
Tanny Crane, Crane Group, like Matt, and so many around the table. I'm born and bred in Columbus, Ohio. Our company's been here for 77 years, and my father used to always say, this community has been so good to us, we have a responsibility to give back and to be a part of the growth. So excited about what we've seen in this community, the growth, but we have to make sure everyone feels a part of it.
I'll properly introduce myself. Sandy Doyle Ahern, actually run a company called EMH&T. We're going to be 100 years old next year. I actually did not grow up in Columbus, but I've been here about 35 years now, and I am incredibly grateful that this became my home. So I'm here because I care a lot about the future of this city and our region and trying to do the best we can for everyone that's here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Trudy Bartley, Associate Vice President at The Ohio State University. My whole passion is about how we can make Columbus great. I started out at the City of Columbus, particularly in the human service sector, and really have been fortunate to really work in my passion. And so this area is really about passion, about how we make this a thriving city where people want to come and people want to stay.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Ullman. I serve as the vice chair of Pelotonia, and really thrilled to be a part of this group. I have unbridled optimism, and I think our community has unlimited potential. And in the face of some significant post-pandemic and other challenges, it's inspiring to be a part of a process that will reimagine and re-envision how we support human services, the arts, tourism, et cetera, in our community.
Well, Elon Sims, Chief of Staff to Mayor Ginther, and echoing a lot what's been said already. These are challenging times that we're in right now, and I think what remains is that this is an exciting time for our community, growing and thriving. And so for me, I look forward to being part of a process where we continue to help folks thrive all across our community.
Jason Hall, CEO of the Columbus Partnership. Proud to call Columbus home since January of 2025. So I'm excited to bring some fresh perspective, excited to do a lot of listening and learning about community in this process, and ensuring that as we all work together with community, the decisions we make together through listening and collaboration are going to be critical to growth, but also critical to ensuring we're a more just community going forward. So excited to be a part of that.
Good afternoon, Luke Fedlam. Very excited to be here, and I'm excited for the honor and the opportunity. I am a partner at Amundsen Davis Law Firm, and I'm like Sandy said, I wasn't born here, wasn't raised here in Columbus, but have called Columbus home for the last 15 plus years with my family. And when we think about the growth of Columbus and all the opportunities that come with that, responsibilities come with opportunities. And so having the opportunity to work through those responsibilities so that we can create the Columbus that we all want into the future is really what I'm looking forward to.
Good afternoon. Chris Long, Finance Director here at the City of Columbus, and just echoing so many of the sentiments here this afternoon. Just a real passion for our city and its continued growth, and deep commitment to our community partners. Very much looking forward to being part of the process.
Hello, I'm Barbara Benham, Chief Public Affairs Officer for Huntington Bank, and I'm here with gratitude to our elected leaders who are bringing us together at such a transformational time in the growth of our city, and the fact that there are public, private, and civic partners around this table, and that we can work together to make sure there's equity and that we all benefit from the prosperity of this growth is, I just think, a really inspiring thing and why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Hi, I'm Janelle Coleman. I'm the Vice President of Community Engagement and Philanthropy for American Electric Power. I also lead the AAP Foundation. And every day I get a chance to talk to nonprofit partners across Central Ohio who are working to make our communities better and to serve our individuals and families. And so anything that I can do to make sure that we are helping them and we are helping to continue to make the fabric of Columbus strong for everyone is something that I want to be a part of. So thank you for the invitation, and really happy to be here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like this is a family reunion. And some of you, I have phone calls into you. Don't leave, because we're going to have a conversation. When you leave, we'll have a meeting. No. My name is Joy Bivens. I am the Deputy County Administrator of Health and Human Services for Franklin County. I'm appointed by the Franklin County Commissioners. One of the dopest commissioners in the country is sitting to my right now. You will hear from her later. But I oversee Job and Family Services, Office on Aging, Justice Policy and Programs, Child Support, our one-door work, or in our mobile units. I'm excited to bring whatever I can to this work. It is something that I am passionate about. It is my life's work. And I not only believe in equity, but also believe in accessibility. So we are really excited just to be here.
Hi, everyone. John Tanous, Chief of Staff for Columbus City Council. I'm excited to be here and support what I hope is a more comprehensive, forward-looking view of issues that I think we try to tackle in year-to-year budget cycles, but that's not the right time horizon for how we need to be addressing those things. So I'm excited to get to zoom out, focus on the next 5 to 10 years, and hope we arrive at a roadmap. And it's my deep regret that we could not come up with a better name for this committee in round 2, so I'm going to keep thinking about that all throughout.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marshall Troxel. I serve as Assistant Director of Community Affairs in the Office of Mayor Andrew J. Ginther. I am not a member of this committee, but I am proud to support the committee in its work as one of the many staff members from the City of Columbus and Franklin County that will be supporting this work. So thank you all.
Great.
Okay, yep. So I'd like to go ahead and just momentarily turn our attention to our members on screen. Tracy, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sandy. My name is Tracy Martinez. I'm the office managing partner at Squire Patton Boggs, and I'm thrilled to be on here. I don't know that I have anything more to add than what was already been said, but the one word that sticks out in my mind is the word transformational. And I think we're in that moment right now, and I'm really excited to be part of this. And I thank you for the invitation to join the thought leadership that I think is going to take place over the next several months.
Karen?
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Karen Morrison, President of the Ohio Health Foundation and Senior Vice President here at Ohio Health. I'm sorry that I'm not there with you. We have our own board meeting today, so I'm here at Ohio Health. I was a member of the original FRAC, and so I know these conversations are important and they're also vital. So I look forward to working with this group to create sustainable solutions to problems that we all know exist in this community and to be able to create sustainable funding as well. Thank you.
And Administrator Wilson, I see you're there. Would you like to say some words?
Good afternoon. I'm Kenneth Wilson, Franklin County Administrator, and I'm excited to be here because I am deeply committed professionally and personally to the welfare of all of Franklin County. Thank you.
Thank you for the introductions. I think just a quick point of observation, what's really nice to hear from everybody is the common thread of caring about this community. And I hope everybody knows and understands that this is a group of volunteer people who do care and want to do right. And I appreciate all of you being here. Councilman, would you like to say anything since you are seated here?
Just want to say good afternoon, Councilmember Nick Bengtson. Excited to work with you all and really excited for the folks that are around in the room. I think that we are in a really great time in our city's history when we talk about growth. But there's what this group is going to quickly do is that growth can do one of two things. We can allow it to shape us and define us, or we can take this moment to leverage it, to plan for it and manage it. And so I'm really looking forward to the work that will come out of this for not just the years ahead, but for the decades ahead, so that we can say that we didn't just get bigger as a community, but we got better. So thank you.
Thank you. So to help ground the conversation we're going to have today and sort of outline the importance of the work that we're going to be doing, we're honored to welcome remarks from our local government officials here this afternoon. Mayor Andrew J. Ginther, Columbus City Council President Shannon G. Hardin, and Franklin County Board of Commissioners President Erica C. Crawley. I will turn that over to all of you.
Great. Thank you, Sandy, and to each and every one of you. I am so glad you said yes. My understanding is that everybody was asked or pastor told to join this group did. I think that's the first time since my 6th grade skating party at USA North that everybody came when I invited them. So it's great to see you all. I want to thank City Council and the County Commissioners for their partnership in convening the FRAC and the FRAC, not the Frank, the FRAC. And thanks to the talented and esteemed members for volunteering their time. The first FRAC generated recommendations that have guided public investment in human services, cultural arts, and travel and tourism for nearly 15 years. We are a very different community today than we were just 15 years ago. Our growth is creating new needs, new challenges. And I ask this committee to identify ways that we may use our resources to ensure that everyone in our community prospers from our collective successes. But we're also facing a new challenge in light of what is happening right now in Washington and down the street at the State House. I've agreed to be the storm cloud so that my colleagues, President Crowley and President Hardin, can be the sunshine. The federal and state government are pursuing funding strategies that would cause unprecedented cuts. Funding strategies that would cause a downturn in revenue streams that our citizens, our businesses, our residents count on for basic city services. A couple quick examples. Federal government recently revoked a pandemic preparedness grant, which resulted in us needing to let 11 employees go months, just as we are seeing an outbreak with measles and other pandemic-related issues around the country. Half of Columbus Public Health's funding comes from federal grants that could be in jeopardy. I'm also concerned that our $7.5 million in federal community development block grants may be on the chopping block as well. $22 million comes into our Department of Development every year from the federal government. If you're not aware, the U.S. has passed a blueprint resolution today that will demand at least $1.5 trillion in reduced spending and spending cuts over the next 10 years. I'm not sharing this to be a downer, but I think I have done my job. I'm sharing this because we are understanding and navigating the impacts of this election and this administration in real time. I want us to have a vibrant arts, human services, and tourism community. We know those all things dramatically enhance our quality of life. But it's also my job to first ensure that our residents are safe and housed and healthy. And these are unprecedented times. We'll continue. I've been to Washington more times than I'd like to count during my tenure as president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and many more trips planned. But these are unprecedented times facing counties and cities. And I just want to make sure that we're all level set on that. We are very fortunate as a community, but the city and the county cannot fund all things that the federal and state government used to fund in partnership. And so I'm grateful for each and every one of you stepping up, raising your hand, committing your time and energy. But these are unprecedented times, and so I want to make sure we go into it sober, eyes wide open, and committed to making sure that everybody in this community is well served, protected, and invested in. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ginther. Council President Hardin, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mayor, for centering us this afternoon and centering this conversation. Also, thank you for putting the full weight of this administration and our city behind this very important conversation. I want to thank our friends at the county for standing shoulder to shoulder with us as we embark on very, very important conversations that will set the trajectory for our community for the next 5 to 10 years, and certainly to every one of you who has agreed to be a part of and to lead and to advise all of us in the direction we are to go. I want to make 3 points as we get started today. And the first one is to reiterate some of what the mayor just said. We'd been talking about reassembling this FRAC for some time now, and I believe that we would be here having this conversation regardless of who the president was. But because of what is happening at the state and federal level, your work, which was always going to be important now, is now absolutely necessary. We find ourselves in a moment when housing agencies, homeless shelters, and food banks are finding out from Twitter that their federal grants are being slashed, when the state is talking about rolling back Medicaid, and that's on top of our local budgets already getting tighter. So this is not a theoretical exercise that you'll be participating in. This is real, and this will advise us. Second, even though right now we feel all this pressure about budget gaps and shortfalls and what we can't fund right now, I do want you to approach this from a place of scarcity. I do not want you to approach this work from a place of scarcity. This isn't about a shrinking pie or making do with what we have. We have a lot of assets in our community that other regions wish they had. And an engaged civic sector, thriving industry, brilliant people, a forward-looking and welcoming culture. So I'm asking you to go into this conversation with a spirit of abundance and imagination. Be bold in your thinking. How can we use those assets to generate resources and chart a course for the future? Don't be limited by what you think is possible now. Personally, I believe the COVID pandemic funds did not bloat our budgets or our nonprofits. It right-sized the funding for them. Third, I'm asking you to take the long-term view.
Some recommendations of the original FRAC report took 6 years to get implemented. So I want you to ask, not just what we can afford, but what is the Franklin County of 2035 going to need? And what are we going to do? And what are we going to wish we had prioritized when that time comes? Money isn't the only resource we're talking about here. We also have to talk about time. What big bets should we take now that will pay dividends down the road? I'm so grateful to all of you for agreeing to dig in with us and to help us identify these big solutions, these important priorities, and arrive at a roadmap for the next decade for our region. We are so grateful. I'm so grateful that my colleagues are here, that they are all engaged. I want to do a quick happy birthday shout out to my colleague, Melissa Green, who will be very engaged. And thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Bankston, for being here as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Crawley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you today. I bring warm greetings on behalf of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, my colleagues, John O'Grady and Kevin Boyce. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to acknowledge the leadership that has made this gathering possible. First, I want to thank my good friend, Mayor Ginther, for his unwavering vision and commitment to the future of our city. His leadership has been instrumental in ensuring that we have the opportunity to come together today and create the changes our community truly needs. I also want to extend an extreme gratitude to my brother, Council President Hardin, whose leadership and dedication to the people of Columbus continues to drive positive change throughout our city. His work inspires all of us to push the envelope and to think bigger. Thank you. And then I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and for saying yes. You could be anywhere else doing anything else, but you chose to be here and to commit your time. And that is a true testament to your dedication to our neighbors and to our community. But we are here to ignite change, real sustainable change. And you are the catalyst for that change. As Council President and the Mayor laid the foundation on what we are seeing today with the federal and state government, we know that the partnership between the city of Columbus and Franklin County is one of immense power, potential, and responsibility, no matter what is happening elsewhere. Together, we have the unique opportunity to make decisions that will benefit every resident every single day. And to be clear, this work is not light. This mantle is heavy, and your charge is monumental. I don't want to make light of the moment that we are in and the work that's ahead. The work of the FRAC 2.0 is not just about identifying existing gaps. As was said earlier, it's not just about evaluating current revenue streams. It's about expanding them in a way that aligns with the values of our community. It's about creating the funding foundation necessary to support our human services, our cultural arts, and tourism sectors, which are all critical pillars of a thriving, healthy, and vibrant community. We are moving beyond traditional linear thinking. This work requires targeted, universalistic approaches, as well as strategies that work across multiple sectors to improve the lives of all of our neighbors. Your charge requires you to build a future where the resources we need are allocated efficiently and where the systems in place continuously adapt to meet the ever-changing landscape of our community so that everyone, every single person in our community has the same opportunities to thrive and not just survive. The decisions you make as part of FRAC 2.0 are critical. Your ability to examine funding trends, assess revenue utilization, and propose long-term strategies is the key to creating sustainable solutions for the most urgent needs we see today. You are here today because you are not just participants in this process. Each of you bring a diverse perspective and an invaluable wealth of experience and an unwavering commitment to our city and to our county. The stakes could not be higher, and the moment could not be more critical. This is our fierce urgency of now, and I ask you to be bold in your decisions, to stay committed to the task at hand, and to approach our growing challenges with the visions it demands. As Council President said, we can think of a city and a county of, what it will look like in 2032 or 2035. At the county, we look at what does a county by 2050 look like, where access to early care and education can be seen as a birthright, or access to all the resources that people need to live and work and play is seen as a birthright. That is what the charge is today. And so with that, I want to thank you for your dedication. I want to thank you for your leadership and for all of the work ahead that we will do together. The time is now, and so let's get to work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you to all of you for the vision and sharing that with us and taking the time to be here with us today as well. So we're going to start to dig in here now that we've gone through some introductions and I think agreed upon vision of why we're here. We're going to take a quick look back at the first FRAC that was convened in 2011 and completed its work in 2012. So I'm going to ask Deputy Chief Craig Conley and Assistant Director Marshall Troxel to provide that brief summary to us, represent some key findings and recommendations, and the tangible impact of those efforts. And I will also remind everyone we do have a copy of that study, so as you take your time in the evening to sit and enjoy something, please take a look through that document as well. I'll turn it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of, thank you. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, we appreciate your time and attention today. So we're going to talk about how we got here and where this started. This narrative starts back in 2011, where at the time, Mayor Michael B. Coleman convened City Council, as well as 13 appointed members and 10 ex officio members for the original Funding Revisory Review Committee. They met 10 times between 2011 going into the summer of 2012 to discuss matters like we're going to during this session. The approach was to look at the purpose, the process, as well as to put forth recommendations for the community to be able to invest into travel, tourism, human services, and the cultural arts. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Marshall to talk a little bit about the fundamentals of those conversations and the approach that was taken.
Building on what Deputy Chief Craig Conley discussed, this first iteration of the Funding Review Advisory Committee, or the FRAC, they roughly 12, 13 years ago reviewed a variety of potential tax revenue options, evaluating each one according to several criteria for efficacy. These at the time included economic efficiency, administrative feasibility, potential for public acceptance, and the level and the stability of the revenue stream. Those are the same kind of factors that this group will be looking at more closely and becoming very familiar with over the course of the work of the committee. The committee also inventoried the funding practices of other major metropolitan cities, comparing what Columbus currently does and could do to peer cities across the country. After thorough review of different potential tax revenue options and funding streams, the committee ultimately recommended 5 non-income tax revenue options. These included an admission surcharge, auto rental surcharge, parking surcharge, casino revenue allocation, and reallocation of the hotel-motel bed tax. The committee also reviewed 3 additional revenue sources that it ultimately did not recommend to move forward with. These included an alcohol and cigarette surcharge, food and beverage surcharge, and a county-level combined human services levy. These revenue options were not recommended because they were either outside the committee's authority, which at the time was only convened by the City of Columbus. This committee is different in the sense that this is a joint partnership between the City of Columbus and Franklin County. But the committee did note that of those potential tax revenue options that were not recommended at the time, that future circumstances could warrant revisiting those. In addition to considering various public funding mechanisms, the committee also provided several operational recommendations to the key sectors that it was concerned with. These included, the human services, cultural arts, and travel and tourism sectors. And these kind of non-funding related recommendations had to do with improving efficiency and promoting accountability among the sectors. So those included encouraging the key sectors to collaborate to reduce duplication of services and improve efficiency, developing performance benchmarks that could measure outcomes clearly and show a return on public and other forms of investment, partnering more closely with private and philanthropic sectors to diversify funding streams, and working with Franklin County leadership to explore shared funding opportunities. So we have achieved that part of it, certainly, with having this partnership. And now I'll turn it back over to DC Conley.
Great. Thank you, Marshall. So it's important to note in this that the committee chose not to conduct an in-depth study of any one particular sector or industry or space, but it was more of a needs assessment presented by individuals from those particular sectors and industries. That allowed us the ability to have a financial outlook and a perspective that identified what viable revenue streams might be, relying on the expertise of those from their field. Staff support from the Mayor's Office, City Council, and Department of Finance was provided in this. After all that being said, in the end, it was about identifying a sustainable framework that will allow all of us to work in a way that the City of Columbus can implement changes and adjustments that will allow us for operational efficiency, improve the process by which city funds are granted to other sectors across the work we're trying to accomplish. Although much has been changed in the years since the first convening of this committee, many of the same core challenges remain. The human services, cultural arts, and travel and tourism sectors have evolved significantly with emerging pressures, instances like the COVID-19 pandemic, economic shifts, housing instability, and increased need for services. Our team looks forward to supporting the efforts of this committee and its leadership, and to build on a solid foundation laid by the original committee, and ultimately to inform and strengthen our collective approach to funding essential community services. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Obviously, our job is to carry forward the work that was done previous to us. And again, I would just draw your attention when you get a moment to your binder where you get a chance to take a deeper look at the work that was done. So I'm going to say thank you to that group in 2011 and 12 who did this work as well. So we're going to shift our attention a little bit here in our foundational meeting to talk now about the expectations and so forth of this particular FRAC. I would like to invite Chief Elon Sims to discuss the charge of this committee, what our goals are, and what success might look like for us. We're also going to spend a moment with his time on highlighting our responsibilities of each of the members, expectations around participation, collaboration, and the deliverables that we'll be working on together. So I'll turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I'll be presenting with some colleagues of mine, John Tanous and Joy Bivens, and so we're going to collaboratively share this information with you all. So I'll kick it over to DCA Bivens.
Had a few more minutes. I was just getting comfortable. So again, thank you so much to this committee, and thank you so much, as everyone has said, for raising your hand and signing up. We know that public trust is built through good stewardship of resources. The community is expecting us. They need us to make sure that the decisions that we make in this room are not just for today, but they're generational decisions. Generational decisions for the two little babies that just walked in the door talking. They need us to make decisions not from the perspective of scarcity, but from the perspective of innovation. Who are we going to be by 2050? What are we going to look like by 2050? Understanding that this community currently right now, Franklin County has about 1.3 million folks. We are expected to go to 3 million people in the next 10 to 15, 20 years. So this committee has a huge job, and again, we thank you for that. And our essential role is we're going to be essentially shaping what our community can do with the decisions or recommendations that are made from this committee. So we ask each and every one of you to bring your best self every day, understanding that we're not always going to agree. And it is okay. Isn't it right, Trudy Bartley? We'll still walk out friends. So I had to pick on Trudy. So we, again, thank each and every one of you. Thank you for what you're going to bring to this work, and we look forward to what we can collectively do together. John?
Thank you. Chief Sims, my next slide, or this one? I think that a lot of our speakers already addressed why this is so important now, and I don't want to reiterate their comments, but just to hit on a couple of points, as many people here have acknowledged, we are now the fastest growing region in the Midwest, one of the fastest growing in the country. And with that growth comes new challenges that we need to plan for. So many of the issues that FRAC 2.0 is going to discuss were ones that FRAC 1.0 talked about too, but in many ways they've completely changed. Even though FRAC 1.0, for example, talked about how the Affordable Housing Trust is funded, I think the vocabulary that we have today around the housing crisis is very different than we did 15 years ago. And so we're here to look back at the way we thought about those things before and ask what's changed and where are they going. There's also entirely new needs that were not central to the conversation 15 years ago that now we are trying to look at and ask ourselves where we go. So even though so much of today is about reconvening the FRAC, and we're calling this the FRAC 2.0, I think we really want this committee to feel unconstrained by the format of the past FRAC and be inspired by where the region needs us to go and what our residents are looking to this committee to provide. I'm going to repeat a joke that I made yesterday, which is I think that like Top Gun, this FRAC can be the rare sequel that is better than the original. I say that with respect to Karen Morrison, who sat on the first one, but we're trying to learn from the first process, but not necessarily find ourselves just trying to repeat it. What also brings us here is our strained resources, and many folks have referenced that. The mayor in particular talked about the federal and state resources that are leaving cities and counties on their own to tackle problems that we all have. The first FRAC 2 was informed by the recession. And in many ways, I think our version of that this time around is our depleted COVID resources, but also, our revenue sources that are performing differently. But also, like 15 years ago, we come at all this from a position of strength as a growing, prosperous region to be proactive now and try to look to the future and get ahead of these needs.
Thank you both. So it comes to the work that you all are doing. We're so excited that you all have chosen to join us on this journey that's ahead. You all are here because of your expertise, your love for this community, and we thank you for that. If we can go to the next slide, we'll get a chance to share just the expectations that we really want to help to ground, each of you all. And, we want you to come and engage fully. We've got meetings that will occur between now through the end of this year. And during that time, we want you all to come and ask the tough questions. We'll spend some time learning from various stakeholders, some of which are in the room today, who have joined us during this first meeting. But they'll come and share lots of information with you all about what's going on in the various sectors. And we ask you all to just ask them the tough questions and be able to assess what's going on in these industries and how we can come up with various solutions to those as well. So come with the curiosity first, and then offer the solutions later on in this process. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves on this journey, so let's make sure we do that as well. Also balancing innovation and fiscal responsibility. But then lastly, together, but not sideways. Y'all might say, what does that even mean, Elon? Look, we know a lot has been talked about prior to this first meeting. Lots of conversations, engagements, maybe even a few rumors here and there. But we know because of that, there's so much excitement around this, and there's a lot of just passion, and really just we are in a high stakes time. And so there's reason for the concern, the questions, and even some things that we need to answer for you all. And so our charge and challenge for you all is to come at this process in one where we can do it together in this room. You may have folks reaching out to you all to have meetings, conversations, coffees, lobbying you in certain ways. We're not saying don't have those conversations, but also we say bring those conversations back to this room in order for us to inform the entire process. And so, again, we're excited for what's going ahead of us and look forward to the journey ahead. When it comes to our structure, over the next few months, we will more than a few months. April through November, we will meet with you all about every 4 weeks. Meetings will be publicly accessible. As you all see, we were recording each of these meetings, and we'll offer times for testimony throughout this process as well. We'll additionally have staff from the city and the county to assist us in this process. So Marshall, thank you for all your work. Marshall is the one who got us here today, so let's give him a round of applause. He is our project administrator on this endeavor and will be helping us organize this process along with various county and city staff as well. Thank you to our chair as well for accepting this charge as well. We know it is not easy to guide a conversation and a group like you all, but we are thankful for her insights and her counsel, her commitment to this community as well. And then as it relates to the public, we know that there are folks who are really excited to see what happens in these discussions. There will be ample opportunities for the public to attend these conversations, but we also will have certain times where we're in this process where those meetings will not be public. We'll be sure to communicate those times with the community and you all as well, so that you all can have conversations that can help guide the recommendations moving forward as well. And lastly, when it comes to the deliverable, the committee's report, we want to be able to assess those funding trends we've heard about earlier, recommendations you'll submit to us as well, understanding various strategies, and also a roadmap for what's ahead. So understanding where we've been, where we are now, and also where we're going is going to be your charge. And so in closing out, our remarks to get you all into discussion, this is a moment that demands, great leadership and rooted in courage and creativity and our community values. And as shared earlier by the mayor, a lot's happening at the federal level, and we understand how that has even more complicated these conversations, but also puts additional pressure on you all, as explained by our council president. And so we recognize those challenges are real, and we recognize that this timing of this committee kind of creates an impossible task for you all. The one that's come up with solutions to what can seem like these challenges that are just having so much weight in our community. But we know that what you all bring, though, you all bring just great expertise and passion. And we are a community that has done hard things before, and we will do hard things now. And so, again, we just thank you all for what you've committed to. I'm sure you don't really fully know the whole journey and path and what the North Star is, but thank you for leaning into it with us. And so we're excited where we're going from here. So I'll turn it back over to our chair. Thank you.
So thank you for that. I do want to echo the work that's been done by everyone involved, the city and the county, because it is a lot to organize all of our schedules and to prepare us properly to do so. So thank you to everyone who's done that. And Marshall, thank you for all your efforts. So as we proceed, we're going to be spending a lot of time in the forthcoming meetings, focusing and listening to a lot of information. It's going to be a lot of learning. And I do want to echo one thing that you said that I think is really important for all of us to keep in mind, and that is the learning and listening will get to the recommendations. And while I think it can be tempting to solve the problem before we understand it, I do think we have to be thoughtful and really listen to our presenters. With that said, though, this is a good opportunity today for us to take a little bit of time to maybe stay 50,000 foot and talk about what we're hoping to accomplish. While we have a few minutes for discussion, this is a good chance for us to talk questions that people have, whether they're administrative questions on how we're going to function, engagement on how we want to work with each other, or things that are simply on your mind. I think we all come with our own knowledge base, maybe our own thought processes, our own connections to different things in the community. But I think collectively, this is a really great group of people who can work well together through those things. So while we have a few minutes, I'd be curious if we have some initial thoughts from anybody about what's on your mind, what you're feeling about what you've heard. What are your concerns about the community that we want to continue to engage in as we head towards whatever that North Star is going to look like, other than a report and recommendations, so that we know. So I'd open the floor and see if anyone wants to share anything about what's on your mind.
I just want to really kind of go back to what DCA Bivens said. We're looking at what this city is going to be like in this county by 2050. So it's really looking at it from a futurist standpoint. And when you look at things from a futurist standpoint, it's about not what you know, it's what you don't know, and how you can be innovative. Because, I was fortunate probably last week to listen to a futurist from Palo Alto. And he talked about how 20 years ago, they talked about the internet, and the internet didn't exist, and now it does, and people thought it was a ridiculous idea. So I think it gives us the opportunity to think about those ridiculous seeming ideas that really can have an impact in this very transformational time in our region. Columbus is growing, and those are conservative numbers of what we're hearing. It's a place that people do want to come to, but again, the opportunity does not exist for everyone here. So it's about how do you keep a city at a standard from a cultural standpoint to be a place and a destination, but also how do you look at the people who are underserved and how do we get them to the point of sustainability? So as I just want to encourage people, no thought, no idea is ridiculous. I think we need to think about all of them, particularly not only from a revenue generation standpoint, but as far as what is it that we truly want to be by 2050.
So I know we've talked about the success of the original committee and some of their wins, but hindsight being 2020, and to Ms. Trudy's point, in 2012 there were probably many things that they did not foresee. What are some lessons that we can learn from them that maybe was their misses? Like, what were the opportunities or the things that they didn't shoot for that we can potentially shoot for? As we seek to be bold, how can we look back at them and maybe what they did not do and we can do this time?
I guess in the spirit of curiosity, I just wonder, I have to imagine that other cities are having similar conversations. And so I'm curious from our elected leaders whether during this process there's an opportunity to learn what others are exploring. Our challenges may be unique and our growth may be more substantial than others, but I think there's always value in understanding ideas that are coming from other cities as well and counties.
One thing I think about with this committee, and we have the opportunity to do, is not simply talk about revenue and how we, I think, fund these things and fund where we're going, but also do the hard thing, which is define what our community's priorities are. And I think for a long time we have tried to bootstrap and try to Band-Aid over and continue to fund things that are legacy things. And I'm saying this from a hat of being an elected official, but also as someone who ran a nonprofit organization and understanding that. So it's difficult to say, not one, where's the revenue coming from, but also to say, what do we as a community see ourselves and what are we going to unapologetically invest in? If our goal is to simply keep doing what we're doing, then we're going to miss the mark, because there are folks who are not moving out of poverty. There are folks who are not sharing in our prosperity. And if our really true goal is for folks to actually thrive, that is not for them to continue to be that third generation person in some program. If we truly believe that this work, and we all hear folks say, I want to be out of business in 20 years, well, then let's figure that out. And let's really invest in how do we give folks the resources, how do we make sure that folks seize this opportunity? The one thing I've said all the time as chair of economic development is who will seize this opportunity in Columbus. We know that we'll fill the jobs. We know that all of the investment that is coming, we will meet the mark. But the question we ask ourselves, the question that I ask myself, is it that second generation Columbus kid? Is it that Columbus City Schools junior and senior? Are they prepared and ready for the opportunity that's before them? And so for us, I would say, let us also do the big thing and the hard thing of defining what our priorities are, and also harnessing the political will to unapologetically invest in those. And that's going to be difficult. That is going to be difficult because there are going to be, I think, folks in this community who unfortunately won't be a part of that. And that's a hard thing to do. But I know for me, and I'm saying this crazily as an elected official, I'm okay not being elected again if we make the hard decisions, because we have to. I think about Isaiah and Xavier and what kind of community they're going to grow up in. And so that's really where my focus is. It's not about my job today. It is not about the Columbus of today. It is about the Columbus truly of 2050. And so in order for us to get there, we have to not just simply raise more revenue, right? Also, this is not about simply cutting expenses, but this is about defining our priorities and making sure that we invest in those.
I'd like to build on, not sure if I'm on, I'd like to build on the comments that Pastor Young said related to FRAC 1.0 and some lessons learned and perhaps some gaps. And Marshall, you talked about when you went over FRAC point one, the criteria that the committee used to weigh the different options that were before it to address some of those priorities that Councilman Bankston talked about. And I'm just curious if we should relook at lessons learned, the factors to review what it is we're talking about today, including what the vice chair has said is the unknowns. Like maybe we leave ourselves, we've learned a lot since 2008. We've been here, we've seen this before, and do we need to look differently? And is there time in our conversations and our agenda to, before perhaps we hear from the nonprofit partners, so that they can frame their education and our curiosity around what factors we should be looking at, and are those different?
Briefly respond directly to that, and maybe as folks are talking as well, feel free to consider if there are things like, how do we go about effectively evaluating as a committee various tax proposals, or if there's other information and analysis like, was mentioned, how do we compare ourselves to other cities and counties across the country? I'm making note of that, and we will make sure that we structure future meetings as we go so that we incorporate that kind of information into what the committee is prepared with. So that's absolutely something we can incorporate. And if others have thoughts in that area for how we can best support the committee, feel free to share. So thank you.
Quick on that point, I'm actually really glad you said that, because while we have a specific schedule for things we have to cover, I do think we're trying to be a little fluid so that we have some time to think about things that arise, and we obviously will do the best we can to try to address all the different things that come up. Thanks.
I just wanted to kind of build on some other comments that as we want to talk about not thinking about scarcity and being innovative, it would be helpful to know if there are things that are off the table. I know we say innovation, anything goes, but I also don't want to waste time. I mean, if there are areas that we should not be pursuing, not going down a rabbit hole, things we've learned from 1.0, as you had said, Pastor Young, and potentially where we are in tax brackets and that, I think all that information will be helpful to us so we don't, I would say, waste time. I'm not trying to be negative, but just helping us say, this is where we are, let's be more innovative and think differently would be helpful.
If I could, just to add to that, because I was thinking about this, Pastor Young, when you were mentioning your comment before about the notion of kind of what were some of the potential misses in terms of missed innovation or missed opportunities of thought. But I also would be interested in, along those lines, kind of what there were recommendations made in FRAC 1.0. What was implemented, how was it implemented, and from an administration perspective, what were the challenges? So we may see something, to your point, Tanny, right? We may see something that's innovative and a great idea, and we come back with a recommendation. But if there are systematic reasons why it can't be implemented, it would be good to know. And I think a good way would be to look at not just, we've gone through the recommendations of FRAC 1.0, but to actually see what then when the administration took those recommendations, what actually was implemented, what were those challenges, and hear back on how that turned out would be, I think, helpful.
I wanted to maybe double down on, I really appreciate the comments around priorities and defining that as one way that we could maybe get started on that. I'd love to spend some time on developing a shared fact base around how we might measure from a KPI standpoint those priorities and actually look over time at how they're trending. Because I think an important element of our recommendations are really about how we are going to allocate or even potentially change the allocation of dollars. And I think if we came at that not just from how have the dollars into each of those priorities changed over time, but how have the outcomes changed over time, we'd be in a position to understand where are we underinvesting or overinvesting given scarce resources, and also where are we maybe not as effective in the way that we're investing as we could be, so that we can understand how to spread those scarce resources in the way they're making the biggest difference, and also so that we can understand where do we need to do some catch up based on the actual outcomes and the experiences that people in our community are having, rather than just how are we funding those priorities. And Sandy, maybe I know we've got a lot on our chairwoman's plate, but sometimes spent thinking about what data is going to be available to us, and doing that up front so that we can even identify where do we need to pull some things together, and make sure that we're seeing that and developing that shared fact base before we need to be talking about recommendations that start to be a little bit more action oriented.
Yeah, no, I actually think it's a great point, and it's probably getting a little to what is on our agenda in the coming meetings. So I don't want to get too far ahead, but is it worth taking just a moment to share a little bit about what we'll be doing the next couple of meetings? I don't know that it will 100% answer everything you're thinking, but I do think it'll set the stage for maybe further discussion about that.
So I really appreciate that. So just briefly, I think the way that we will operate for the second meeting is we will focus on providing the committee with an overview of how the city and the county currently funds these key priorities. And we will do our best to present that information to the committee in a way that's consistent and readily understandable and so on. And actually, this kind of feedback is really helpful because I'm, taking notes about how we might be able to emphasize different parts of that data or tell the story in a way that'll be actionable for the work of this committee. So our second meeting, like I said, will focus on kind of, city and county financial snapshot. And we'll also talk a little bit about outside of, public funding for these sectors, what private philanthropy, corporate giving looks like as well. So we hope to give that kind of broader view in the second meeting. The third meeting, I think we're going to focus, at least in part, on how does a committee effectively evaluate tax proposals. So to the point that was raised previously, what kind of criteria should we look at? What are other cities and counties doing to sort of get us thinking in that way? We also have a little bit of flexibility with the third meeting as well to build out the agenda in a way that I think reflects the desires of this committee. So as we go, I think we're actually building out that agenda. The subsequent meetings will focus on presentations from the various sectors, many of whom are in the room with us here today, which we appreciate. But yeah, that's kind of an overview of what we're looking forward to. And we will adapt as needed, of course.
Beyond just looking at the inputs, though, how are things funded? What are the actual outcomes within those priorities so that we can say, is that funding getting the job done or not? Are we trending in a direction that we're satisfied with? So that we're not just thinking about, how are things funded, but we're thinking about, is that sufficient or not, given our priorities, and looking at the actual data of those outcomes over time. I think that's a really important element of us understanding. I think we know what our priorities are, but I don't know that we know necessarily that they're being funded appropriately unless we're able to see, are we heading in the right direction or not?
Well, I really appreciate that. That is absolutely something that we can put together on our side. I also think it could be a very valuable component of what we invite the external stakeholders to present as well. They will, in many instances, have the best sense of, at the level of service delivery, what is the efficacy, what is the impact, how can you demonstrate, how a certain level of investment corresponds to a certain level of impact. So I think that's twofold. It's information that we can absolutely prepare and provide to the committee, and I think invite our external stakeholders to present about as well. So thank you.
Yeah.
If DCA Bivens is willing to discuss it, we know when we did the Rise Together group, as far as that resulted in the Rise Together blueprint, we really took the effort to understand the impact and the KPIs and what was working and what was not working, particularly from a social service standpoint, with the idea that there were going to be nonprofits who were in the room, who were a part of the process, that may not receive the same funding that they received before because of outcomes.
Right.
So if you can speak to that, I think that is a good example of how you get to where you want to go. Of course, it took 18 months, almost a year to 18 months, and we don't have that kind of time. But it is a good example of how to get to where you are saying that it prioritizes.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you, Trudy. And just to make sure I'm able to say what I'm not necessarily asking for, this isn't about saying this program is effective or not. It's more about saying within this priority, are we investing adequately? Exactly. Yeah, and we might want to think about effectiveness too, but I think it's also about just are we putting enough, oomph behind that in order to get where we need to go. Yeah. So it's not designed to grade or say something's ineffective at all. I don't think that's what the committee is asking for. Yeah.
Approach to how we should be looking at things because of funding requirements, similar to what we're doing with CSB, as Commissioner Crawley just talked about. We had an assessment of CSB to figure out, are we funding it to the level that it needs to happen? And there's a whole plan, I believe, that came out of that. But going back really quick to what Trudy was talking about, and I don't want to go over everything. I see our former Commissioner Marilyn Brown, in the room. When we did the poverty blueprint plan, we did just that. We looked at the data and the funding sources. And then we looked at who was providing those sources, and is it needed? Do we need to have conversations with folks trying to even open up new nonprofits, right? When we already had 16,000, I believe, is that the number? 16,000 nonprofits. So we looked at that and figured out who was doing it well, and then looking at the categorical conversations that the public asked us to have regarding transportation and workforce and education and all the things so that we can make those recommendations. But I really want to hit on this really quick. When you look at funding sources, we also have to touch on the why. The why is rooted in the policy that allows us to leverage the dollar. And sometimes people do not understand that there's a requirement attached to the dollar, and there's rules written in ORC of things that we must do in order for folks to live in this community. We don't want that to be a restriction, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to look at innovation and braiding policy, not dollars, but braiding policy to where we can really make some big, huge impacts. And that is what the intent, I believe, Trudy, when we did the Poverty Blueprint Plan, getting to that work of where can we be a little bit more innovative. Commissioner, did you want to add anything?
If I may, one of the things I was going to comment on, thinking about this, I got excited about it, but is, coming from the private sector prior to working in the public sector, I can definitely appreciate what you were saying, Matt, around trying to understand leading versus lagging indicators, right? Not necessarily effectiveness. Thinking about how you balance the qualitative versus this quantitative. And you look globally, we're trying to look at what has been, where we're trying to go, what barriers exist that keep us from that point, how do we address those barriers, and then how do we get to these next steps. But the thing that's interesting to me is this middle part around the barriers, right? So I'm just going to encourage, as we talk through things over time, is to recognize, this will be a review for some, I said this before, but the difference between conditions and constraints. Because there may be things that exist now that we see as a constraint. I think Luke said something that stimulated an ambitious thought for me around, is something really a constraint or is it a condition? A point in time that there seems to be unmovable, but really if we think differently and construct it, we can. That's a condition. It can be moved. versus a firm constraint that we know that we're not really going to be able to move, to Tanny's point, and not waste time on it. But just not being rooted in that and having a preconceived notion or a misconception around something from our own expertise that really we need to reimagine and maybe alchemy in a different way.
I just got my message for Sunday. That's a word right there, brother.
Actually, Craig shared that comment with me yesterday, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make T-shirts for everybody that says conditions versus constraints. I was like, that is really amazing, actually. I love it. So I don't want to cut us short. I want to make sure I redirect to one point, and let's keep having some conversation. As we're talking through what we're trying to accomplish, we also need to think about what support you feel you're going to need in the course of doing this work. I do think that there's a great job that's being done by trying to give us information ahead of time. We're going to have a lot of learning in between. I think there is some expectation that you'll have to spend a little bit of time on your own here and there reading some materials that were provided as we go. But I want to open it up because maybe there are other items or things that you feel you might need in order to properly engage in this work. And I don't know, Commissioner, if you wanted to add something real quick before we move off of kind of, you're okay? Okay, so anything on anyone's mind, because we're going to wrap up with some administrative items on exactly how we're going to proceed. So in that vein, and trying to be a little fluid and not completely putting Marshall off track with what we need from him. Any thoughts?
Sandy, or Madam Chairwoman.
No, please. Yeah, no.
I know I would benefit from a Megan Kilgore, just as an example, economic modeling, looking at bonds, really understanding financing opportunities that I may not be as aware of. And she is prolific. I mean, I'm just using her as an example of someone that is traveling to many cities around the United States. I think, Doug, to your point about what other cities are doing, she is just an example of someone that gets around and really understands funding sources. Maybe she's already teed up, but
We've got members of the auditor's staff actually here today, so thanks,
Oh.
Darlene, for having us here. So
Great.
we're ready to answer those questions when they come up.
Great.
I know Zach Telerik from OMB will be providing a presentation on our funding revenue and different sources as well.
Has the speaker lineup already been established, and if so, can we know who that is in advance?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Well, I don't mean to sound funny when I say that. Yes, in the sense that we absolutely know there's sectors we need to hear from. I don't want to get ahead of you, Marshall, but he is literally diligently working in the last few hours, in the last couple of days, on trying to line up our meetings, line up speakers, et cetera. So there actually are some conversations that have been going on in the last day to try and get those lined up. At some point here, we need to provide everybody, well, my preference is to provide everybody in advance with some kind of list of what's going to be going on at the meetings. And so I've said to a couple people, I come from a world of schedule, budget, deadline, deliverable. And so you will hear me probably frequently in the course of this try to keep us to that, meaning we have an end goal here. We're here to learn, we're here to contribute, but at the end of the day, we have what I will refer to as deliverable, which is our report of recommendations. So the only way I know how to do that well is to keep us on some kind of track to achieving that. And I think that the risk of coming off track is that there's always more to learn. So I think we're doing the best we can right now to lay that out and provide that in advance and give you as much information as possible. But I will turn it to you because I don't know if we're prepared to do that yet today or if that's going to be forthcoming.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So I think at this exact moment at this meeting, we're not ready quite yet to lay out what will be the content of the future meetings of this committee, aside from kind of what I said at a high level about meeting 2 and 3. That being said, I think within the next week, we will have to this committee an overview of what specific topics, and in many cases, which specific presenters will be invited to attend future meetings. I think there will also be an opportunity for discussion and input from this group as to what entities and individuals and experts we want to hear from. So there's maybe, I would say, 2/3 of the meeting where we have a pretty good sense of who needs to be in front of this committee to have a longer form conversation to present their expertise, but there is flexibility as well, and we will work with the committee to build out what some of those later meetings look like based on where the conversation goes and who we want to hear from. But I expect in about a week or less, we'll be able to fill in a lot of the missing pieces for the committee, and we will in turn update that information online so that it's available to the public as well.
Other things that people would like to bring up currently in terms of support, other information? We had a good suggestion here about the auditor. Other thoughts?
Can you clarify that the peer comparisons will also include not just ideas or opportunities, but also the cumulative impact of some of the levers being pulled? So we can look at competitive impacts and results from any levers we recommend.
Yep. Okay, so this may be the one and only time that we're actually going to end maybe a little early.
It's always a kiss of death.
I know. I'm like, no one has anything else they need addressed. Okay, so then if that's the case, then Marshall, do you want to just run down any of the other sort of administrative items, rules of engagement for proceeding, and then we will adjourn?
Absolutely. That sounds great. Thank you to the chair, the vice chair, the entire committee for, your commitment to this work, and for, being willing to move all of this forward with us in a relatively tight timeline. So we appreciate the need for efficiency and enabling enough time for consideration, but also, keeping the work moving forward. So I just wanted to say thank you, first of all. As we've discussed, our city and county staff are available as a resource to this committee. So as we go, if there are questions, ideas, suggestions that you have, or any sort of need for assistance that you have, feel free to reach out to me directly or any of the city and county staff here. We're happy to provide any kind of support to enable you to be successful in this role. My contact info is, I included it in each of the binders. I think folks probably have it because we've been doing a lot of communication back and forth, but I'm always available. In follow-up to this meeting, we will share minutes with the committee. That'll be over email. We're also collecting all of our documents in a shared OneDrive folder. So our idea is that we're going to be sharing a lot of materials as we go, both reading materials and also, follow-up materials after meetings. We will do our best to have that all in one digital place. The physical hard copies of those materials are in your binders. We can keep those binders in between meetings, or you are welcome to take them with you. If you turn them in to us, we will keep them updated as we go. So you can make that decision, whichever you would prefer. Our next committee meeting is Friday, May 2nd at 8:30 a.m. And importantly, it's not in this room. It's going to be across the street in the Coleman Building hearing room on the second floor. So parking stays the same. You can still, you're welcome to park in this parking garage, but we will be across the street for our next meeting. As I mentioned, the focus of that meeting will be on city and county finances, as well as our local government's current level of investment in the key sectors that we've been discussing. And I'll end it just by saying thank you again. Thank you, Chair.
So, Marshall, thank you for everything that you're doing. I guess I would maybe leave us with this thought. I think that I want to say a truly deep, heartfelt thanks to everyone that's here, everyone on the city and county staff who are participating and guiding us in this, everyone who's taking the time to be here. It's exciting to me to hear that common heart, and it's important to me that we share that. I guess an observation is I think this. We know that the work that was done previously is really important, and I never want to downplay what happened in a prior run of this. So we do want to pay attention to that. I also, though, would say the world has changed since that time in ways that certainly weren't predictable in 2011, 2012. And then I'd say on top of that, we wanted to do this before we really knew what was going to happen at the federal level. So all of a sudden, in the course of this being generated by the city and the county to come back together and have a FRAC 2.0, it wasn't with the knowledge that the federal world was going to be changing so rapidly around us. And so I think that unbeknownst to everyone, we now have an additional added layer that we just need to keep in mind. And so I don't want it to overwhelm us, because I do think we could get overwhelmed very quickly by feeling like things are very, very difficult. I think innovation does matter. I think we have to be positive, but we have to be realistically positive. And so I mean that to say that we have to be willing to speak up in these meetings. I hope that we feel comfortable doing that, and that it's not a lot of sidebar conversation, because I think everyone here is going to benefit from learning and hearing from each other. And the risk of sidebar can derail things, frankly. And so I'm hoping that we own it, we're comfortable speaking up, and that we all follow the North Star. KPIs are great, but we have to remember that we're doing this for people. And as long as we remember it's about people, then the numbers are supporting the discussion about the people. And I may once in a while remind us of that, and please forgive me if I do. That's me wearing my heart on my sleeve, but that's what I think we need to be doing. So thank you, everyone, for being here. I should have announced my wonderful vice chair earlier. I'm so happy to have her here as a vice chair. And would you like to say anything else?
No, you've said everything beautifully.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Let's plan on coming with a lot of energy and open minds to the next meeting. We are adjourned.